3, 2.
Have we ever had a 3, 2, 1 countdown before?
We haven't. For those, obviously, who can't hear the first little bit of the podcast.
Well, hopefully, let's leave the 3, 2, 1 in.
Or could we?
Yeah. Welcome to Gus and Gawny. Starting off the top with Gibbo again. Welcome, Gibby.
Good to be back.
Big episode.
Purely because probably people doubted us, thinking that we'd potentially be able to do a grand final episode because we might not be in the grand final. But
I'm certain there were those haters out there, as there often is in the podcast game.
Well, we initially go back to the contract that we signed to do Gus and Gawny, and we only signed 24 episodes. So
yeah, well, what are we up to now? This would be episode number. Would be nearly be in the 40s.
Yeah, so we're going to have to go to the negotiation table over the off season.
Absolutely. We'll get Glenn Bartlett to be our lawyer representing us.
Who is in Perth.
Yeah,
I'm sure was at the game.
Maybe.
And hopefully we bump into him at some point regarding Arnott's.
Yep. No update there, which is terrible by me.
Yeah.
I've had bigger things to worry about, namely a prelim final.
Yep. Let's talk prelim.
Let's go there.
Please.
Obviously against the Geelong Cats.
Pretty obvious. For those listening, I would have thought to the podcast we'd be able to put that together.
Yeah. And it was, for once, a pretty standard lead into the game. Obviously, we were in quarantine, but within our resort, that became quite normal because we'd been in there for 2 weeks.
I'll pay you that one.
And there was no traffic, no nothing. The bus got there at the right time. No rain. Well, there was a little bit of a drizzle in the warm-up.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it affected the game.
No lightning.
Certainly no lightning that I could see.
Yep. And we were able to...
And we won.
Able to win. We're able to win a prelim, which is the first time I've been able to tick that off. Your first as well?
Yeah, my first win in a prelim.
Yeah, we've been at the club the same amount of time almost. I mean, I'm a couple of more years, but...
Yep. Well, geez, I'm not that old, but...
How old are you?
25.
26
How old
this
are you?
year?
26 next year.
26 next year. What's that? 94?
6.
96. Gotta do some maths. I'm 91.
It's not your strong suit.
You're
95?
We're best friends. I'm 91.
Well, officially on the camera.
We're best friends, 5 years apart.
Were you best friends prior to the podcast? Has the
best
relationship developed?
It went big when we had a task from our mental coach, sort of mental skills coach, and Andrew Waterson, gave us a task that we had to get out of our comfort zone in front of the group.
This was a big day.
And Angus and I were sitting next to each other. I'd say circa 2016, 17.
Has to be early on in the piece.
Yeah. And Angus and I were sitting next to each other within the midfield group, and Andrew Waterson goes, "You will need to sing or perform something in front of the group." And we locked eyes straight away.
Naturally.
And we both knew what song we were going to sing. We weren't going to perform. We were going to do some dance.
I could honestly, singing the words, my portion of the words, I reckon if the cameras keep rolling long enough, maybe you'll catch me singing my segment of the song.
I found God in the corner of a
See, I think I know your lyrics as well.
We sang You Found Me by The Fray.
It was a beautiful rendition.
And that's where Angus and I really started blossoming.
Yeah.
Great story.
It is. So
that was off the cuff.
Off the cuff.
We'll go back to the result. Do you know what the points was?
83.
83 points.
I thought it was 125 to 42 off the top of my head, which would be 83 points.
You had a good look at the scoreboard on the way off, did you?
Well, yeah, I took all because we had bad memories there from last time, and I wanted to replace them all with good memories. So I had a good look around.
So I want to talk about a few things that I noticed throughout the prelim.
Please.
Before we get on to a few more in-depth topics. The Mexican wave, which was great to see. Perth fans usually happens in a boring game. I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was great. The whole last quarter was it the Mexican wave?
Well, I noticed with maybe like 2 minutes to go, I didn't come off in the last quarter, and there was one stoppage, I think, in the D50 where the ball had been spoiled out of bounds or something, and I just sort of looked around, and the wave perfectly lined up where the ball was going, and that's when I noticed. You were sitting on the bench for a while, so I guess you would have...
I got benched for 17 minutes. 17 minutes.
Is that the first time you've ever really...
I've been injured and sat on the bench for 17 minutes. I got subbed off.
Yep. That'll do it.
Subbed off with one handball against Western Bulldogs. Funny enough, against Western Bulldogs.
At least it wasn't a donut.
No, I got the handball on the way to the bench.
You're joking.
Yeah.
Huge result.
Big fella, come off. Oh. And as I'm coming off, I got involved in a little contest.
Congratulations.
They didn't reconsider, just keeping you on for a little longer?
Yeah, I was saying, why am I coming off?
I'm running hot.
Effective handball. We're running hot. Where were we?
Talking about the Mexican wave.
Mexican wave.
One thing I noticed was, so Shannon Burns is our runner.
Yep.
Great man, very funny. And he decided to take on the Mexican wave. So they're going up from like half back. And he thought, this is my moment, and runs along with it, tries to beat the wave. He thought, man versus crowd.
Can't have won. He cannot have won.
He claims to have. I haven't seen the vision, but he did claim
So
to.
our runner, while the fourth quarter was on,
Yeah,
was competing with the Mexican wave.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to have to bring that up with Shannon.
We're going to have to have a chat.
And your fellow players who were sitting in the box, the non-playing players, were getting involved in the Mexican wave. So there's vision of that
Feeling
too.
the love.
I'll tell you, someone, Christian Petraka, a friend of the podcast,
Friend of ours.
he, at quarter time, they put dance cam on. Not sure if you noticed this. And dance cam was an almighty ripper. Like this kid that hogged it for a minute. Well, what I've been told. I was obviously focused on
Adam
instructions. That track was clearly not. He had locked eyes with the big screen and he was not hearing anything of what Ooze had to say. It shows that maybe what Ooze has to say quarter time isn't that important because track came out and dominated in the second quarter.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I also have an observation, Max. There's a few things that probably I could run with here. The one that probably needs to be said is you played, and it's brilliant. Yeah, I think I'm quoting you by saying, great week for a podcast. Yep. You said that to someone after the game, and you're right. You had the best performance I've just about ever seen in a game of AFL football, let alone a prelim final.
Is that better than 37-3?
Almost, I said, prefaced my comments by. But you were spectacular. Your wife, Jess, is now shot to prominence with a aptly asked question on the Melbourne socials.
Yep.
What are they feeding him up there?
And it's pretty clear by the socials that it is meat.
Well, there you go. Well, let's not segue so quickly away. I've got a few questions. Just want to break the performance down. So you said it was a normal week.
Yep.
Was there anything in your mind that you did differently that led to this? You must agree with me. Well, it was a spectacular performance.
And potentially, if had played 17 more minutes, could have been
Who
even bigger.
knows what you could have done?
Yeah,
with
that's
17 more minutes.
a good point.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I definitely had a chance for 6.
yep.
Yeah.
That was the most nervous I was because the crowd was incredibly loud for that. I don't know
They
what
were
they
calling your name out.
What were they saying?
It was just anticipation, I think.
Yeah.
I think I heard Gawny.
And I put that on the full.
So anyway, any different? Anything different during the week? That you think
I was in quarantine.
Yeah.
That's slightly different.
But we've been quarantined before, and you haven't played like that. So I'm talking about like a little thing that may have really fired you up, being the spark. Here we go.
I didn't even think about this. I had a bowl of Crispix.
You're kidding! Pre-game Crispix.
I had a bowl of pre-game Crispix.
Wow.
I went out and bought a box from, got a click and collect, delivery, whatever, Coles delivery, and I got delivered. And people looked at me a bit weird that I had a box of Crispix. Everyone else has got mandarins or bananas, and I've got a box of Crispix and made it to my room. And that will make it to everyone's room, I suppose.
Can I just say, not a heap of people messaged in, but those who did were really aggressive in support of Crispix.
There was some passionate Crispix fans,
Crispix.
and I'm happy.
Vindicated now.
First of all, hi. I knew you guys were out there, Crispix fans. They also, throughout my bowl, because I hadn't had one in about a year, throughout my bowl Crispix pre-game, I did realise that they also get soggy like neutral grain.
Yeah.
And the last few isn't great. But the first crunch of a Crispix preliminary final. Yeah. Like the feeling.
So absolutely got to go again for the granny then?
Yeah, I haven't had any. I had a bowl after the game as well, so I've had 2 bowls, and roughly in a box of cereal there'd be about 5 bowls, depending on how big your bowl is. So I've got
3 bowls to go.
Bowls.
1 bowl to play with.
Yeah.
Did you know you were on fire when that third quarter was happening? I think it was the third quarter when you kicked 4 goals in the quarter.
I thought we were all on fire. No, in all seriousness, I understand I've kicked some goals all in a row in the third quarter of a prelim, but at the point...
Well, I mean, yes, obviously.
At the point, the team was on fire, and I didn't know what I'd done to that team performance. I know I'd kicked goals, but I felt like I also thought Cozzy had kicked like 5. I thought Tommy McDonald was on fire, and it turns out he'd kicked 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just the feeling of red and blue, and the pumping up of the crowd. The crowd was
unreal.
It made me feel like it was a purely team performance. It wasn't until Abby Holmes came to me straight after the game and said, "Have you ever played like that? 5 goals from a ruckman?" I sort of sat there and said, "Well, no, I haven't. You're right."
Good point. Good point, Abby.
Yeah, good point, Abby.
So there was 2 other things that I wanted to go with.
You said you had 7. That only sounds like 2.
Well, no, you answered What have you been, as the best quarter of footy you've ever played? You answered that yes. You have been eating Crispix, different. You changed your week by having Crispix, so there's a few that you've knocked out. You knew you were on fire. So I know that there was one that it looked like a goal that Cozzy would kick, where you took a mark, or it wasn't a mark, but you collected the ball in the forward line, ran and snapped it from 45. I knew it was touched because I was in the contest and it got kicked out and I heard it. I knew it was touched before anyone had called it. Yep. But especially in those big games, and there was a few instances where people didn't hear calls. Did you know it was touched, or was that just, I've marked this, I'm feeling like
imagine if I did that.
Wayne Carey and let me wheel around from 45 and snap it through?
Imagine if it's the second option.
Did you hear the call?
I saw it deflect. So it actually deflected. Zach Tui, I'm pretty sure.
Did the umpire pay the mark?
Yeah, so once I played on, I'd heard the whistle. And then that's when I sort of sat to myself and
I've got to go, yeah.
I could be coming off here. I miss this. It sort of hit me that I may have screwed this up. And I belly that 9 times out of 10 at training.
And well, thank God it was the 10th.
Thank God it was the 10th.
And my final question on your game is, I dutifully sliding forward to close out a opposition dutifully, doing my duty to slide forward.
That's not a word. I'm calling you out there. That is not a word. Dutifully.
Are you sure you want to do this live on the podcast? Talk to you amongst yourselves for a few seconds.
What's your thoughts?
I'll back him in.
But have you heard it before?
I haven't, but I'll back him.
Conscientiously.
Yeah, dutiful. You said dutifully.
Okay, here we go. Dutifully. In a conscientious or obedient manner. Would you like to look at it?
Give me a look. I had it spelt with a J as well.
So did I. I'm meant to be good at English.
You geese. Gibbo, don't. Let's not get.
If I searched for it, I wouldn't have found it.
True. I am dutifully closing out my winger. Okay. So we've won the contest. We've won the clearance. And we've got the clearance and you're breaking out and you're running forward. I am doing my job. And it just so happens we are running on the same, if you can imagine, we're on the same latitudinal line. I think, geez, he's run a fair way here. What's he going to do? You've got the ball.
A few meters in.
You put the head down.
Was I almost ready for a bounce?
Put a few meters down. I thought, okay, something has to happen now. And I'm watching it happen on the same, and you kicked it. And I assume you were always going for goal, but my first question is, did you ever think about passing that from the second you got it, or was it always going to be goal? And my second question is, from my perspective, it looked like it was a nice little outswinger, and I thought it was going to miss.
So I obviously had the best view of the stadium, obviously right behind the kick.
Sure.
And it was heading towards the post the whole way.
Outswinger, little outswinger.
So hence why I felt like I would have brought out a Papley type celebration, but I had to watch it.
Yeah, sure, just to make sure.
Why Viney's picked me up.
Yeah, because he's got a hold of you.
I actually had to watch it.
I was next into the scene of the crime, by the way. So my view, I always thought it was going out. Did you ever think about passing that ball? Was it always?
No, I don't. I've rewatched it since, and
it was always going to be.
I've only worked out there was a few forwards doing a few leads, but
okay. Well, that's my interrogation done, mate. Congrats on a really good game.
Gibby, anything?
Well, in terms of interrogation or news?
Interrogation.
No, I'm pretty satisfied.
Happy with those questions?
Yeah.
I thought you.
You've done a good job.
I rest my case.
I want to talk about your game.
Sure. It's pretty good.
Just quickly.
That's about it. That's pretty.
You were involved in 3, off the top of my head, goal-saving contests. Did you do anything different during the week?
I read the dictionary and learnt what the word dutiful meant.
Yep.
No, nothing. I was very, very... And I was surprised because my pre-game cereal, I hadn't been... and click and collected, and they had it there. Yeah, so right. I was pleasantly surprised. The meatballs at the Joondalup Resort on Thursday night were incredible. So hats off. They must be...
I didn't have them as incredible.
They hit the spot for me.
Yeah, I like a little bit bigger.
There was a meatball fiasco, which we didn't mention in Adelaide a couple of weeks earlier.
Hi to our friends at the Ibis Hotel, but put more meatballs in your isolations.
They said, we're going to give you all a selection of foods that you would get at the buffet, but we're going to put them in individual cases. And meatballs, bang. And I'm like, yep, tick, pasta, bang. That's me done. Yeah. Open the meatballs, and there's 4 meaties in.
And they weren't big.
I got 3.
You got three meaties.
Wow.
And the pasta was completely, like, the ratios are off. If you're going to put 3 meaties in there or 4 meaties, you cut the pasta in half.
Don't bring a kilo of penne.
Don't bring me a kilo of penne. Anyway, so I love the meaties, probably for the fact that they had unfettered access.
I've got
to the
nothing
meaties.
but good things to say about Joondalup, the kitchen stuff.
Been fantastic.
They've been fantastic. I haven't eaten out once until last night. I ate out because I got out of quarantine. And that, to be fair, I only had 2 days worth of choice because the other days of quarantine. But no, you can Uber Eats, so I could have Uber Eats, but I didn't. And I've enjoyed every single meal.
Well, that's a pretty comprehensive wrap up of that game.
That game, yeah.
And our time here.
So, Gibby?
Do you have any news, Gibby? I'm sure there's a little bit going around.
Well, the news, as of today, the Melbourne membership tickets have sold out. So nice and quick. They're all gone. Members.
How many did we have?
I don't know what our allocation was. They keep that pretty under wraps due to
Do they?
corporate details.
Yep.
But
Fat cats floating around.
Yeah, right.
I didn't want to say it. But the public tickets, that looks like it's getting cut, will go on sale Thursday. So there's still an opportunity for members.
Sure.
Yep.
So 10 o'clock Western Standard Time. Obviously, the news coming out of the weekend was Nathan Jones has gone home. Got to talk a little bit about him and the impact he's had on the club. You spoke well in your presser, Gawny. First man you'll be FaceTiming after the game?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the first thing we got to get through is tomorrow night's Wentworth night. So, and no one's up to where me and Chunk are, Chunk and I. So that looks like it's going to be just myself.
Zoom him in?
Yeah, potentially. Well, I'm presuming he might be busy.
Potentially, yeah.
That's what my gut's telling me. He could be a little bit busy, but I've had a lot of chats with Nathan over the last 12 months, last 24 months about himself, his career, where he's at, and I think he's made the right decision every single time, and I feel like he's made the right decision again. As much as I was persuading him to stay from a selfish point of view, I think he's my inspiration. I think he's everyone's inspiration to play footy and to win a flag for the D's. So selfishly, I want him to stay. I think he's chosen the right decision. He's chosen to be there for the Twins' birth, and he doesn't think that he was going to slide his way into the 22, and that's his own right to think that, and chose the better option. So, yeah, no doubt he'll be our first call.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if anyone's calling anyone else before him. He's should reflect his contribution to our group over so many years. I was speaking to, I can't remember who I was speaking to, but it's a shame that the NBA, you look at the NBA, the NFL, all these other big sports, everyone's recognised if they, are successful in an organisation, and if there's a man who deserves some recognition, medal or whatever, it's probably Nathan Jones, isn't it?
It is a good point. So he got us to 7-0, not obviously him by himself with 21 other players, but he was in the team to get to 7-0. Sam Wiedemann filled in throughout the year numerous amount of times as a tall forward to get us some wins. Kate Chandler, Jake Melksham, list goes on about the guys that have helped out.
Yeah,
Hunty.
I mean, it's a shame. Yeah, Hunty. I mean, and there'll be blokes who are genuinely, stiff and will feel hard done by, and I just don't. Maybe there's a reason why, but for the life of me, I can't.
I do think it's unique to be able to play in the 22 though, so there probably needs to be two things.
There's a watch.
Yeah.
For the 22 or for everyone?
For the 23.
Watch for the 23, medal for the team.
Anyway, I just think it's a gross. It's a shame, a massive shame that he won't be he's not going to get a medal if we win, and that's, I think, a shame.
Brighter news: Stephen May out on the track today,
smiling.
He was smiling. He was all smiles. I don't think you'd be stopping him from playing in the grand final.
I'm going to bring a pessimistic point of view.
Go on.
There is nothing stressful about a flush run for a hamstring.
Sure.
I'd like to see more.
Like to see more?
Yep.
Well, I'll come back to you next week, and
Thank you.
Hopefully Stephen May. I'm sure all the fans are now doubting whether Stephen May is going to play in the grand final.
Yep.
So
I've been given a pessimistic point of view. Maybe Aaron Norton might think he's playing on Jake Lever now.
Okay, let's go with that.
Wow. Gawny's playing chess and you're playing checkers, Gibbo. Lift your game.
The Bulldogs injury news. So Vandermeer went down with hamstring soreness in that game. They're saying he could be in doubt for the grand final. They've got Waitman, who will come back in. He had concussion, so missed last week. Alex Keith missed with hamstring soreness. He could potentially be right as well. So he would be a big inclusion for the Dogs. So a few things to look out for before that game. The other news today is the uniforms. There was a little bit of talk. I actually don't know why there was talk about whether Bulldogs should wear a clash strip or not, because we played them 2 months ago. They were the royal blue white shorts.
Which is what they'd be wanting to wear.
Yep,
and what's their clash?
The white one. And so people were saying potentially they should wear the white one. They're not. They're wearing the royal blue.
I haven't watched the MCG game back with doggies. Did it clash on TV?
I was there.
No,
didn't see it on TV, but it didn't clash from where I was.
What if you're colourblind? You're probably in a bit of trouble anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dare say you're probably relying on the commentary there. Your uncle. Is he in quarantine, your uncle?
He is.
He made the trip?
The AFL, he's come under that exemption banner.
He's got the granny. First one?
No. He was there when BT. I know he was there when BT dropped the F-bomb live on.
When Boyd kicked the goal.
Boyd!
From inside the same square.
Oh, that was on Triple M, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he was there. Oh, I don't know. Look, mate, it doesn't bother me.
Sorry, mate. Sorry to ask you a question about your family.
It was on Triple M.
Yeah.
He commentates a lot of different things.
I won't bring up a family
Your
question
goal
until 10 more minutes.
Your goal was quite similar to that Tom Boyd goal, just running centre square, arms out, celebration.
Boyd's bounced just before the line.
Yours cleared the fence.
Mine cleared the back fence.
Yeah, his was to win a grand final. So some
well, was it? They were already in front.
Yeah, they were in front and they won comfortably.
Kind of sealed it.
Anyway.
I'd like another one this week. That's
sure.
all.
So would I. Let the record show I would as well.
That's all from me.
That's all you've got.
Well, what more can we talk about? We're in a grand final.
Yep,
Fair
good
call.
point.
Not too much
That's
news.
good news. Yeah, it's good news.
I want to quickly just give an update on Meat Club.
It's growing.
It's growing from initial group of 6.
Benny Brown has not joined.
Benny Brown hasn't joined as much as we've asked him to join. I said he should really just take the piss one day and come over and just put a slab of tofu on the barbie.
I think Tommy Mack would tong him in the face if that was to happen.
So it's grown from Tom McDonald, Sam Wiedemann, Charlie Spargo, Greg Stafford, Alan Richardson, and yourself are the main 6. And
I was about to say, can't forget. Anyway,
it's all out of the group of sort of 7 or 8 ring-ins, which I've been included in. Majak Dor has been included in. Adam Tomlinson.
Yep.
Some really good meat eaters.
Yeah, some carnivores.
And that's growing. So that's happening again on tomorrow.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think the club's funding this one. So
which is
if
great.
Benny Brown really wants to take it to a new level, he should go to Richo, who
Broccoli Club.
himself, Broccoli Club. Pay for my broccoli.
I want to talk about the Brayshaw clan. They're all here but Sticks.
Yes, all of them. So all my brothers are here. My mum is here. She's looking after her old man, who unfortunately is ill.
Yes.
But we're all now here. And
so how's Will here?
He's in the army and he lives with Hamish.
So he's based in
Cottesloe.
Perth anyway?
Yeah, they live in
So that's why
Cottesloe
all
and
three of them
he
here.
works just in the base around the corner.
Yep. Are you allowed to tell us anything more about Will in the army?
Well, he doesn't tell. I think he would potentially be the best person to ask. I don't know what. I get a news feed from
Who's
him.
his target currently?
That's a good question. I know this podcast is very anti talking about political issues, so if I say anything, I'm certain it'll get cut. But Will and Hamish live together. Ham works for West Coast.
They all came to the game, Prelim?
I did.
And all good
Actually,
with that?
Hamish didn't. So he
Why
works
not?
in the community department for West Coast,
Yeah.
which, Australia is a huge state, and I think he was up north, a few hours north, doing something
right.
with his commitments to his job. Andrew and William came. Deborah came. Grandparents came. Arnie, uncle, a few people came. I've got a lot of people over here.
How'd you go for tickets for the grand final? Allocated 6?
Allocated. So I had 2 enclosure, 6 from the club for being the player who's playing. And then I think Deborah, my mother, has just worked pure magic.
Wheeler and dealer.
Oh, she's a wheeler and a dealer. And I think we're going to be touch wood unless something has happened that I am unaware of. I think she's covered all the bases. She wanted to do it so that I didn't have to. And a few have snuck through. I'm sure you would be dealing with people trying to get tickets. And
There's a lot.
It's stressful.
There is a lot.
You had 10. You had a bloke down at the car dealership ask you for 10, didn't
Yeah,
you?
he wanted 10.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get him 10. Shout out to, just quickly, quick shout out to Nick DeVos.
Tier 3 sponsor.
Tier 3 sponsor. Not going to go into more into that because it might clash with other sponsors.
Not a tier 3 sponsor.
How's Schmutt's hamstring?
So he ran for the first time today.
Yep.
So he's, I don't know if he's on track to replace Stephen May, who you said isn't playing. But
Yeah, well, that'd be.
I haven't said he isn't
huge.
playing. I just was
see
pessimistic.
more?
Everyone's saying he's got a smile on his face. Well, he hasn't done nothing.
Oh, maybe I was telling a funny joke.
well,
you know?
Joel Smith is running, but whether you can credit that, given it was a flush run,
Who knows?
who knows?
We'll wait till May training, huh?
Lastly, before we get to Sticks,
Sure.
positive lingers. It's Eddie Langdon's segment.
I think we got that mixed up in
Yep.
terms of the order.
We just want to quickly promote something. This is sort of a
I need someone get me a paper bag. I'm hyperventilating.
This is a between podcast, what we're doing quite right now, just to fill in maybe a week of space and talk about the prelim game and obviously interview Sticks.
This is our prelim.
Yeah, this
from
is
a
our
podcast.
prelim. We've got a big game coming up.
It is
It's
Herculean.
we have
Gargantuan.
we've been told by people that know Ed that he's interested in coming on next week.
I am. I'm frantically. I sent, look, I've written a thesis, an essay that I want to read to him, and a heap of questions in there if he comes on. I'm currently in the process of scaling back, so it would fit into. I think we're going to do like a 2-hour Eddie Langdon special.
Yep.
You are pulling strings to try and get him on the show. We're scrambling here. It's the headquarters is
Trying to work out what the Attica of Perth is.
the Attica. Where we're trying to find is it Rockpool? Like
Yeah.
Charlie Spargo is going overdrive on some potential sponsorships. It is hectic over here. We don't have an Eddie Langdon segment in terms of stuff he's done this week in terms of positivity, but what we can tease is a potential. Like it would just be.
It's really exciting.
It's hard to put into words.
He's already a tier 2 sponsor, obviously, with Langdon Coffee merch.
Of course.
Who do our keep cups, not yours, just mine.
Yep.
So it's really exciting. So hopefully we get that on next week at some point. It'll be a busy week for us, I'm presuming.
Yeah, huge.
But we can fit 2 hours in for it.
Of course we can.
Let's
Should we
go to a break.
Thanks to our co-principal partner and podcast sponsor, Zurich Insurance. For over 100 years, they've been insuring the people and things you truly love. And just like you, they truly love footy and they truly love the D's.
All right, welcome back to Gus and Gawny. Just before we get to our very special guest, the second parent of Angus's and still 0 of Max's. We'll get to that later. We want to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, we do. We've got plenty as well. First of all, Zurich.
Yeah.
Great for insurance. If you have any insurance needs, they've been great for us.
Pretty clear Zurich are our main tier 1 sponsor.
Yep, they've looked after us financially, and that's about all we can really say.
But Fat Nut Customs, Cabin, and Langdon Coffee merch.
Langdon Coffee merchants. So if you want to get sustainably sourced coffee, go there. Our tier 2s, I got to mention last week, I'm pretty
So
sure.
we're not going to mention this week. But we do have potentially another one we can talk
On
to
the way,
with your dad.
we're going to talk to
let's
our
bring
guest.
him in.
Bring him in. It's my old man and
what else?
your friend.
my friend. Yeah, my friend. We talk on the phone.
Yeah. Mark Brayshaw. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to have me. I tell you what, it's a glow. Congratulations, boys. You played very well. And on behalf of all the families, keep it up.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, yeah, well said. My parents will be really happy that you've taken a responsibility on behalf of the families.
Yep. So go on. What are you saying?
I had a chat to Rob, and quite a few. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. We've actually established a good friendship, all of us. And once, pre-COVID, once a year we go to Salem's restaurant in Brighton on a Friday night before a Saturday game. We try and get the non-Victorians over, and it's good fun. So
Cop that, Max. Cop that.
a New Year's sort of show at Hunty's place. They can be a bit long too. The McDonald's come down from the bush, so there's a good vibe behind the scenes.
Do you limit how much you see the Petracas?
Yeah, well, we used to go out to their place. It's no easy way to say this. It's a very long drive. We moved it back to the party at Hunty's joint, which is a bit more local. And it's fair to say that we have to get Ubers home. So, the Packers are wonderful supporters. I'll tell you another reason why we flicked from their joint, because Christian got bitten by his own dog.
Yeah.
The bloody dog's enormous, this brutal, hideous-looking thing. And it was the old, you're most welcome. Don't worry about him. He's fine. And it was the same dog that bit his own owner. So we're not going back to Petracas.
All right.
Yep.
Can I go first?
Please.
Okay. Now, I've been told a story, Sticks, and I just want some clarification on it. Obviously, playing football back in the day, did you or did you not wear a pair of Deborah's underwear during a game of football?
Gibby, have we got a minute or not? What's the time frame?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you've used a bit on the families, but we've still got plenty of time.
Go nuts, mate.
So, back in my day, and by the way, it was a brief and inglorious career at North Melbourne, but we all, two things happened. First of all, we had to have a job. And secondly, the Kangaroos played on Friday nights, lots. So I had a job in the city at an accounting firm. And on a Friday night, I had to go to work and come home in time to get to the game, which required a very early morning wake up. And we all know what they're like in winter. And so anyway, morning, 6 o'clock, I'm up having a shower. And your mother, Angus, was annoyed that the lights were on too long because she wanted to go back to sleep. Anyway, I couldn't find any jocks to get my suit on, and she said, "Hurry up." Anyway, I've got a pair in my drawer there. Your grandma bought them. They're far too big. Just take them and get on. So anyway, I put these underpants on because I had to get out. Put my suit and tie on. Went to work. Forgot about it. Got home, and you know what it's like as the afternoon gathers closer to the game, you get more and more serious. And so I got home at 4 or 5 and put my club uniform on, packed my bag, went into the MCG, and Mick Martin. Does the name Mick Martin mean anything to you, Max?
Yeah, the big fullback.
Big fullback, and Mick's a hell of a nice guy, but I
Probably not the person you want to be seen with women's underwear.
I can't imagine.
yeah. So Mick's the most sophisticated guy. So he's sitting down, and I get my tie off, the jacket. I'm getting stripped down next to him, and next thing, all hell breaks loose because these pink underpants with all little flowers on them are right at Mick's eye level, and I'd completely forgotten. So. Yes, I certainly didn't play in them, but I had some explaining to do. Mick whistled up the entire team, coming around having a look, and so there you go. There's the story.
So did you free ball instead?
No, I've had my job. I had the underpants. I always used to wear bathers playing footy, so I took them off, but not before Big Mick got an eye full of them. It's not the finest hour, but anyway.
Yeah, certainly not. Not your worst style. Look, you've come from, as you sort of briefly touched on, humble beginnings as an accountant at KPMG and little football career you had going there, and you've graduated all the way up the corporate tree, pretty between the lines, good line and length. You're not the most adventurous type of operator. You're a creature of habit. A few comforts that you like, and then you've gone at the ripe old age of 56 or whatever the goddamn hell you are, and become the CEO of a weed startup, a cannabis company. So what the hell's going on?
Sports science, Angus.
Would you like to explain yourself there as well, because you're not exactly what I would consider to be a illicit drug user?
So first of all, medicinal cannabis is legal as of 2016, and our business, can I give it a plug? Levin Health.
Yeah, go nuts.
Levin Health is a startup. But we see ourselves in the sports science sector. So, and I'll tell you what, there's another overlap here. We're partnering with La Trobe University and Professor Peter Bruckner.
Brooksy.
Yeah, he's a Melbourne boy.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know, he's the head overseeing or pretty senior in the sports science thing at the Demons. He's got a CV you can't jump over, including Liverpool, Olympics, Australian cricket team. Anyway, we're partnering with La Trobe to try and see whether or not medicinal cannabis can help people who are suffering chronic pain, particularly ex-athletes, and not just professional athletes, but everybody really. I mean, it's a big problem. Medicinal cannabis has been around for thousands of years, helping people. And it's not for everybody, and every now and then there are some side effects, but the potential is enormous. So we are, amongst other things, trying to unlock the potential of medicinal cannabis to help people. We're also getting involved in concussion as well, which there's anecdotal evidence that cannabis can help people recover from lots of concussions because of the anti-inflammatory dimension to it. So we've got to do a lot more research with the La Trobe people, but that's the plan. Thanks for asking, Angus.
And you heard our long list of sponsors. Is there any way we can come to an agreement? Charlie Spargo's our CFO.
You get buy 10 grams, get 1 gram free, or?
I'll have to speak to Peter. I tell you what, leave that with me. I'll speak to Peter because you've got to go to your GP to get ours.
Liaise with Charlie. He's the guy you got to talk to. Young Spargs.
Yeah, Spargs is our guy. I'm a little bit worried about university students and marijuana, so good luck with that.
Tell you what, you two, the pass player category in the near term, and go and have a look at your fathers and grandfathers and see how pain-free they are. So it's the future.
Why'd you leave the AFL Players Coaches Association job? Is that got a use-by date? Is that sort of you were past football and wanted to get into this medical space?
Good question, because the coaches are a wonderful group of men and 1 or 2 women, not enough yet. It's a pretty tough, relentless job. It was very difficult when COVID broke out a couple of years ago. I remember talking to you, Angus, about how difficult the coaches find it because they've got a bottomless sort of pit of empathy for the players, and there's a lot more to it than just picking a team and so forth. So they've got the players' best interests at heart. But then when you lose a third of them, as we did last year, having to find them jobs and take them into different life after footy was a challenge. So this opportunity to join Levin Health was coincidental, but I think it was about time. I'd done the job for 5 or 6 years, and I felt as though it was a good chance to hand over. If you're familiar with the concept of this idea of marginal utility. The more you do something,
Max Gawn doesn't know the word dutiful, so there's no
I
chance.
know exactly what you're talking about, Mark.
Marginal utility is the last thing he's thinking about.
the sixth bit of the chocolate cake is not as good as the first. So the sixth, seventh year in the CA job was probably someone else to do, and I was very lucky to get this new opportunity. But I have immense respect for the coaches. Immense. I used to try and keep a different distance between Goody and Roosie and, Rossi Lyon and the coaches that Simo coached all you three. But generally speaking, I found them wonderful guys, and you're in very good hands, very, very good hands. And if you, it's a very noble pursuit to coach a footy team, because it's all about trying to get young people, men and women, to unlock their potential, and it's great. That's why it's so rewarding. So look after them. Can
you settle a little argument that we've had on the podcast for a while now? Back in 2018, we had a pretty good year in 2018, both myself and your son.
And the club.
We got to a prelim. Angus finished third in the Brownlow medal. I won the AFL Coaches Association award. Which award out of those two would you think is the more prestigious?
There's no question the coaches have got, as there's a saying that says, everyone's got an opinion, very few have an expert opinion, and that's the coaches, Max. So when I rang you that day to say you'd won the award, it was a mighty accomplishment. I think you and Goody are the only two coach-player combination in the history, because he won it as well.
Well, now Clayton's gone and won one as well. So
Clary. Yes, look, I think the umpires have got such a difficult job to do. But look, the Brownlow's got all the kudos. But for the thinking man, I'd reckon the Coaches Association Award is a feather in your cap, mate. Well done.
Would you think that the helmet may have helped in 2018?
Definitely a sympathy vote, wasn't there?
What stands out more aggressively, wearing a black helmet, or being a 7-foot giant with a beard that goes down to your nipples?
That's a good point, Max. In fairness, I think, look, I'm going to lay with the coaches. I think they've just got a wonderful insight into the game, and they can see everybody rather than just the midfielders underneath. So, it was a hell of a good year. It was a mighty fall off afterwards, by the way.
Oh, thanks for reminding
us.
It's
our podcast, mate. So how about you set yourself down?
Can I ask, on Spotify, Angus has a playlist called Sticks, which is basically everything from 70s to 90s.
Sticksy 2.0. Might I just get in there? It's Sticksy 2.0 for those at home who want to check it out.
Basically bangers. And your name's Sticks, so I can only presume that it's got something to do with you. Are you a music man?
Yeah, I am, but I don't go into the 90s. I'm 70s and 80s, almost exclusively. And why would you go beyond the 70s? 80s has got some good stuff too, but the 70s is a wonderful era, especially if you like the Stones. And it's a gift it's like a good wine. It just gets better and better. And every now and then something bobs up that's a little bit more to my taste, but stick with what you know. So yeah, Stixy 2.0.
2.0. So Stixy, the genesis of Stixy was my older brother Will, who had all these limitations and rules. You can only have 3 songs per artist. And there was like a certain year restriction, and there was a few outliers from which, and Stixy 2.0, which I've curated and continue to do so, is forget the limits, forget the limitations. If it's in, it's I put the Stixy litmus test to it, and if it passes, it goes in. So instead of having 3 Akadaka numbers, which is grossly underselling the quality of the franchise. Yeah, exactly. So you get your depth and your breadth. So Stixy 2.0 is the superior playlist, and I actually have. And this is, you're not a man who likes social media, Stixy, so it won't have a heap of context for you. But I've got 25 people who follow the playlist.
Oh wow!
Which is essentially like having
on Spotify.
Which is essentially having 1 million people who follow you on Instagram, Stick. Yeah. So it's actually a pretty big deal. I've got a big following. Which means you do, technically.
Well, there you go. It's not so bad. I don't like social media as a rule. I think it's got horrible fallout for people. It seems to me to be a bottomless pit of misery and horrible bloody carry on. But if it's promoting the 70s and 80s, let it ride.
Yeah, your son is the media manager, social media manager of the Gus and Gawny podcast.
It's my job. And also, you said I could get a free round of golf at one of your golf courses in exchange for some social media coverage.
Interesting. So you're dealing with the devil.
So figure that one out for us.
Sorry, I just went through a tunnel and I didn't hear
what am I saying? Is your brother commentating the Granny?
Yeah. Yes, he is. His first one, I believe.
There you go. So hang on, I thought he was with BT when BT dropped that F-bomb on Tom Boyd in 28, or was it 2016?
That must have been radio.
Yeah, he's this first time Channel 7, as I understand it. He's radio 15 or 20 times before then. So he'll be there.
That's very, very exciting.
Good on him.
Is he in quarantine currently?
Yeah, he gets out whenever it is, a few days before the game.
He's doing it with BT, isn't he?
Beg your pardon? He and Brian Taylor are quarantining together.
That could be anything.
They might not even make it. Have you got anything more?
No, I've known him for 50 odd years or however long I've been alive, so I've got nothing else to ask him. I've heard it all before, but
You two do have a lot of wax on, wax off.
yeah, there's a bit of that.
Can I ask one question just because we obviously have a big Melbourne following on this podcast, so they'd like to know a little bit about some of the Melbourne players. You
That's a good
have
question.
3 living with you, did have a 4th who has moved out.
5, mate. Right, 5. So it started with Clayton Oliver.
Oh, yeah, Clayton. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, Clayton came to us. A very raw, wet behind the ear young man, a delightful fellow. And then we got Cozzy.
Yeah.
Trent. I've got to tell you a story about them. If I've got enough time. Deborah went out one day, my wife, and said to the boys, the washing's just about out of the washing basket. Can you hang it out? I'll be back in half an hour, but hang it out. No worries. Anyway, she came back and went out the back of the washing line, and they had hung the clothing over the line, but didn't use a peg. Between the 3 of them, had never used a peg, had no idea. They just lay it on top of the washing line. So it was a steep learning curve for the 3 of them.
Yeah.
COVID interrupted, but they left. Cozzy moved in with Neville in the COVID beginning of the last year, and then the boys came back and have had a year with us, and then we get Disco. Daniel Turner turned up halfway through the year, and isn't he a fine?
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, he's a beauty. If he can play as well as he fitted in, he's got a long career. So yeah, we've had 5, and it's added a rich dimension to. When the boys all moved out, it's an empty house.
Yeah, I also, Deb said that once we all moved out, you had to come to terms with each other on a more intimate level, and she couldn't really cop that, and so I needed to fill the house up again.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I'm sure some of you, how many listeners you got? Anyway, if they're my age, I understand when the kids leave, it's a different dynamic, and it was great. My Sunday morning and Saturday morning routines, reading the paper, coffee, completely uninterrupted, were interrupted by the boys, but we enjoyed it immensely. And to watch them play footy as well as they've done, it's just good fun. It's great. And particularly Clary, who's, gone from very raw, as you guys know, to where he is now. It's terrific. And for the boys who moved from interstate, they needed somewhere to stay, and they get a little bit of Stixie feedback too. Straight, a little old school.
It'd be good for Meat Club as well. You love your barbecue. You got the King of the Grill hat on out the back.
I'm talking about feedback footy style,
Yeah.
Old school, and so I'm sure that conflicts what the coaches tell them, but they're very nice young blokes. We've enjoyed them living with us immensely.
What are they like in the peg game now?
At the which?
In the peg game, they better with the pegs?
They've got, they can stack the dishwasher if they ever occurs to them, and they can wash them. They've got much more dimension. They can hang out washing properly and fold it up and
I can fold it.
pick it up without it being asked and walk it upstairs. No, they're good. I tell you what, they don't miss out on the gear.
Oh, yes. They love their...
Oh, day after day, the guy arrives. I reckon Trent, Luke probably gets the most, but he would have maybe 15 pairs of shoes just sitting in a box. It's obscene how much they get. But anyway, they're...
That's slightly different to your boy who wears the same pair of shoes for the last 10 years, isn't it?
Nothing wrong with that. You get yourself a comfy shoe. Stixie bought 6 pairs of the same shoe, and they just sit in they sit in boxes because he found one he loved. Don't go up that tree. You like a shoe, you get 6 of them.
I said to George Lawler, I bought a pair of runners. Finally, this is perfect. So I went and got 6 more of them, including from Singapore and South Africa. He shipped them in, and they're going to see me out, Max.
Good on you, mate. Good on you. Well, I think that's just about long and the short of it.
That is about us. Thanks for coming on, Sticks. Good luck this weekend. Next weekend, watching 5 boys playing a grand final.
Yep.
Or 6. No, Disco's not playing. I think it's safe to say that Disco might not play, but the other 5 will.
So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, and keep up the good work, good luck, and don't think too much between now and then.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Good man. Podcast done. See you next week.
Yeah, well done.